Mr. President, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
On Friday, Ted Wheeler, the mayor of Portland, sent a letter to you saying, basically, we don't want your help. You make matters worse. Saturday, one of your supporters is murdered in Portland by, it looks like, a suspected Antifa individual. And then on Sunday, Wheeler comes out and Biden and essentially tries to blame shift to you for the violence there. Your reaction?
Well, these are terrible and very incompetent people. Portland's been burning for many years, for decades it's been burning, but now it's gotten to a point they don't want to do. I watched the mayor try and get in with these people, and he went to a protest, and he went in there, they almost killed him. If he didn't have security with him, he had 5 security guards, he would have been dead, just like they would have done to Rand Paul, who's a great guy, and his wife, Kelly. It is a disgrace when you look at what's happening. Now, we sent in Homeland Security. The reason we sent them in was to protect our courthouse. We have a $300 million courthouse, and they wanted to blow up our courthouse or burn it down. Take your choice, blow it up or burn it down, they said. And I said, no, that's not happening. So they wouldn't protect it because the mayor said he doesn't care. So we sent in our Homeland people. They did a great job. Immediately, Homeland Security. Immediately, it was protected. And that's the only reason they were there. I've offered to send in the National Guard. I've offered to send in anybody they want. I could put that out in 45 minutes and it would stop. And I think the people of Portland and the people of Oregon, I know it's a liberal state, considered liberal, they're tired of it. They're tired of having, of living with this curse. They're living with a curse. They say that when you walk through the streets of Portland, this is years and years of burning, and
it's not last 90 days. It's been really
it's been horrible in the last 90 days. But no, it's been going on for many, many years. It's like you're in, I won't name the city, but it's a city someplace in the world that's not so good, okay? It's a terrible situation.
The Oregon governor said no one is safe in Donald Trump's America.
Yeah.
They're trying to turn the tables on you
trying.
after months of, they're not really saying much about the violence.
Right, but they won't ever criticize anybody that really, that's a violent person, frankly, that's violent. They stick up for the violence. They don't, the people that are getting hurt, they don't care about. They don't care about these people. It's a weird thing. It's like warped minds. And for the last 93 days, I've been offering to send, and as you know, they have to take the offer. They have to ask to have help. I've been standing and I've been saying, anytime you're ready, we'll put it out.
What's motivating them, Mr. President?
I think it's a sickness, actually. I think there's a fear. I watched the way they treated this Mayor Wheeler when he was standing there, and I'll tell you how unfair the news is. NBC News didn't show that he was being shouted at and cursed at. And he ran, and literally he had to run for his life because they were going to really hurt him. He had security. If he didn't, he would have probably...
Well, they showed up as an apartment building over the weekend.
How he can still stick up for him. I think there's a fear. I think he's afraid.
Are they afraid that Oregon could be in play because of people's concern about law and order? Is that what you're saying?
It could. I don't know. No. I think that, like the Mayor Wheeler, I think he's probably afraid for his life because if you would have seen him... But I'll show you how this on this NBC News... put on, and they didn't have the people shouting. They had him standing there, and they talked about how it was a show of great unity, the mayor standing with the people. Those people were going to kill him. They were saying things that I can't repeat right now, but horrible things, but they didn't put that on. I actually happened to see the real tape on Fox. He escaped with his life, and yet he doesn't want any help. It's so unfair to the people of Oregon. We could solve that problem quickly, like I did in Kenosha. Kenosha went through 3 or 4 days of, you wouldn't have a Kenosha right now. We demanded that they send in the National Guard, call the governor, and in all fairness, the governor did it. Not enough, but it was enough to put it out, and we ultimately put in more. We had 1,000 people, and we put it out quickly. You wouldn't have Kenosha right now.
In Pittsburgh today, Joe Biden gave a speech, and he spoke directly about this violence.
He may believe mouthing the words law and order makes him strong, but his failure to call on his own supporters to stop acting as an armed militia in this country shows how weak he is.
Your response to the vice president, sir?
Look, he's a weak person. He's been weak all his life, but now he's really weak. He shouldn't be running for president. He should not be there.
But do you want your supporters to confront the
No.
left-wing protesters,
No.
or do you want to leave it to law
No, I don't want them.
enforcement?
I want to leave it to law enforcement. But my supporters are wonderful, hardworking, tremendous people. And they turn on their television set and they look at a Portland or they look at a Kenosha before I got involved and stopped it. Or they look at Chicago, where 78 people were shot last weekend and numerous people died. Or they look at New York, where violence is up by 150%. It's up by a number that nobody, and people are leaving. They're looking at all of this and they can't believe it. They can't believe it, whether it's my supporter or not.
But you don't want them showing up.
No, I don't. Well, it's a peaceful protest. I mean, they were protesting. They weren't. It's amazing. They want to protest and they get criticized. The other people run through the streets, burn down storefronts, hurt people, beat people, and kill people, kick people in the face. That would have happened to Rand Paul, by the way, and his wife, except that you had 2 and then ultimately 4 very good policemen who took a big beating. They took a big beating. And they really saved Rand Paul. In fact, we're going to bring him into the White House and give him some kind of an accommodation because they really, what they did was very brave, actually. I mean, can you imagine? I'm saying policemen were brave because they were escorting, but they were escorting a U.S. senator and his wife. And as Rand said, he would have been killed if they weren't there.
Isn't it true also, Mr. President, that Democrats have been in their own way inciting this violence against individuals for almost as long as you've been in office?
Sure.
If you see anybody from that cabinet, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
Please get up in the face of some Congress people.
There needs to be unrest in the streets.
The domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue with their allies in the Congress of the United States.
It's not only the Democrats, it's the media, the fake news. The news is so fake. Like I told you with the mayor, where they make him look like it's a great unity thing when actually they were cursing at him and they would have done big numbers on him, but they don't show that. They just show the mayor standing with these very tough thugs, and he was gone, okay? They saved him. But NBC shows it like it's unity with the people. I don't get it. I don't know why they're doing it. And I will say this, at some point, I will not be president. Hopefully that'll be in 5 years from now, but I will not be president. And they're going to die. They're all going to die. Can you imagine if they had to cover Sleepy Joe Biden? It won't be very much fun. But much more importantly, our country would go to hell. Our stock markets will crash. As sure as you're sitting there, we will have problems like you've never had. But if you take Kenosha and if you take other parts of the country that I don't even talk about, I could show you things that we've done to stop this kind of a thing that's happening in Portland and happening in Chicago and happening in other places.
Most red states are cooperating with federal law enforcement, and things are relatively calm in red state America. But Biden said again today in Pittsburgh that essentially you're not going to be safe in Donald Trump's America.
So if it weren't Donald Trump's America, to just use the expression as I'm president, you would have riots like you've never seen. The Democrats have lost control of the radical left. And if you look at Bernie and I call it the manifesto that was agreed to with Biden and his group, that's further left than Bernie ever was. They won't be able to control these people. These people have lost control of these people. And it's hurting them. Don't forget, Biden wasn't going to come out of his basement until the election. Now he had to because the polls are so good. For me, now he had to because the polls are different. So all of a sudden he's in Pittsburgh. He wasn't going to leave his basement. Then he said, okay, he's leaving, but he won't leave for 10 days. 10 days is a long time. So in the meantime, like on Sunday and so Saturday, I'm in Texas, I'm in Louisiana. I was going to stop in 2 other places. Fortunately, they didn't get hit. Arkansas wasn't hit very much, et cetera, et cetera. I would have stopped. But I'm all over the place. I leave early in the morning. I get home late at night. And that's what you have to do as president.
And
Joe doesn't have energy.
Tomorrow you're going to Kenosha, Wisconsin, of course, the scene of so much unrest lately. And the governor says he doesn't want you to come. Why is it important for you to be seen by the people of Wisconsin now?
Because I am a tremendous fan of law enforcement, and I want to thank the law enforcement. They've done a good job. And when the governor says that I shouldn't come or he'd prefer that I not come, I'm the one that called him and said, Tony, you got to bring out the National Guard. Well, I don't really want to do it. Tony, you got to bring it out. And unlike your governor of Oregon that just keeps saying no, he agreed to it at least. Now, he agreed to a small number, but the small number was plenty.
But isn't it a political motivation? They don't want you to come to blue state America because they don't want the media to have to cover what's really happening on the ground.
True.
Isn't this political?
That's true. If you look at what's going on in blue, as you call it, blue state America, blue city America, you look at what's going on in New York, you look at what's going on in these states. Chicago is a disaster. Portland, you look at Portland. Now, Portland's a little different. That's anarchists, and I actually think in many ways that's easier to handle. I think Portland is very easy to handle because that's a group of anarchists that are paid by the outside. And, we put a lot of people in jail. I don't know if you know this or not. Remember 3-4 months ago, we were having a problem with monuments. They were ripping down statues and monuments all over the
Democrats
place.
didn't say anything about that.
No, the Democrats had no control. It actually got out of control even for them. I signed in an executive order, 10 years in jail if you knock down a statue or monument. You haven't heard one thing about it. We wouldn't have, they were going after Thomas Jefferson. They were going after Lincoln, and they were going after the Washington Monument if they could knock that one down. They were going after everything. And I actually don't even think they know. I think they're just thugs. I don't think it may be an ideology and it may not. It is an ideology for the people that are paying them. And the funny thing is, and the strange thing is, the people that are paying them and all this money, because somebody's doing
What
it.
about the
They
corporations?
travel. Well, wait, the people paying them, those people will be overthrown. Their lives will be taken away. Their lives will be endangered. They're all going to be gone. They're just stupid, foolish people that made a lot of money.
But corporations have given an enormous amount of money in the tens of millions or maybe hundreds of millions to Black Lives Matter.
Because they're weak.
Which is all over a lot of these protests.
That's
So
be-
what does that mean
that's
about these
because-
corporations? Why are they paying that money out, Mr.
Because
President?
they're weak people, led by weak people. In many cases, not all corporations.
What does that
are.
mean, they're weak
I looked
people?
at numbers where one company's giving hundreds of millions of dollars
When you say they're weak, what do you mean? Explain
because
that.
they just do what's the easiest path. That's not the easy path. That's a very dangerous path. Black Lives Matter is a Marxist organization. You remember pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. That was the first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter. I said, that's a terrible name. It's so discriminatory. It's bad for black people. It's bad for everybody. And all of a sudden it becomes like sort of, although now if you look, it's going way down because people are tired of this stuff, what's going on, the Black Lives Matter. If you look at what's going on with the bats and a lot of thugs.
Running through D.C. last night.
Oh, it's terrible what's going on. But Black Lives Matter came into existence walking down the street screaming, pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. And that was about police officers. That was representing police. They were pigs in a blanket, like the sausages or hot dogs, fry them like
Well,
bacon.
they were saying worse over the last couple of days in
Oh,
D.C.
I think even worse.
Yeah,
probably.
no, it's
If
gotten-
I don't know. Do you get worse?
But
yes.
DOJ's role in trying to really hit the law enforcement accelerator here against these groups. A lot of the individuals coming into Wisconsin have been tracked as out-of-staters.
Yeah, we have
ones
them
who've been
all.
arrested.
We have them all.
Can DOJ do more, and what could they do to really start putting the fear of God in these violent, not the peaceful protesters, but violent protesters?
So they have under investigation a lot. In fact, I'll show you. I just had this because of this very important interview with you. But I just, and I'll give this to you. In Kansas City, violence has decreased by a third since the initiative began. In Indianapolis, 49 guns confiscated. More than 1,000 arrests have been made under the initiative. DOJ is addressing violence and crime across the country. FBI, but you don't read that. The FBI and ATF are assisting the Portland Police Department. But you can't do much when you have absolutely no cooperation.
But if they don't think they're going to go to jail for 10 years for doing what they're doing, then they're going to keep doing it. So how does a Trump re-election calm things down in the United States? Biden says he's going to calm things down. How will a Trump
He won't
re-election
calm things
calm?
down.
Why? Why won't he calm things down?
Biden won't calm things down. They will take over. They will have won. If Biden gets in, they will have won. He's a weak person. He's controlled like a puppet. So it's not going to be calm things down. It's going to be they will have won. They will have taken over your cities. It's a revolution. You understand that. It's a revolution. And the people of this country will not stand for that. They're not going to stand for that. The vast majority of people feel like me. They feel like every time I put law and order up on social media, it gets such an incredibly positive response. The people of this country will not stand for it. If you say calm things down, yeah, calm things down because they will have taken over. Take a look at what's going on. And Biden, well, Biden is, I don't even like to mention Biden because he's not controlling anything.
Who do you
They
think is
control
pulling Biden's strings? Is it former Obama
people
officials?
that you've never heard of, people that are in the dark shadows, people that.
What does that mean? That sounds like conspiracy theory. Dark shadows.
No,
What is that?
people that you haven't heard of. They're people that are on the streets. They're people that are controlling the streets. We had somebody get on a plane from a certain city this weekend, and in the plane it was almost completely loaded with thugs wearing these dark uniforms, black uniforms with gear and this and that. They're on a plane.
Where's this?
I'll tell you sometime, but it's under investigation right now. But they came from a certain city, and this person was coming to the Republican National Convention. And there were like 7 people on the plane like this person, and then a lot of people were on the plane to do big damage. They were coming from
Planning
the
for
reason.
Washington.
Yeah, this is all happening.
But the money is coming from somewhere.
Money is coming
How can it be
from
tracked?
some very stupid rich people that have no idea that if their thing ever succeeded, which it won't, they will be thrown to the wolves like you've never seen before.
Women voters, so important to reach out to them, whether you're
Yeah.
Republican or Democrat. You have a deficit among women voters.
Well,
now.
that's what they said last time too.
Right. Well, let's say for the sake of argument, you have a deficit among female voters who maybe in some cases you're too aggressive, your tone or your tweets. What do you say to them directly about what you'll do in a second term?
Okay. I have to be aggressive because I'm like standing here in a sea of incompetent people, stupid people, and violent people. Very violent.
But that's the kind of language, stupid
That's
people.
okay.
That's a lot of women don't
It's
like
also
that.
well, where are we? Oh, we're in the White House, I see. See, okay. So I'm standing here in a sea of people, and we need law and order in this country, and women see that with me. You're never going to have law and order with Biden. Hey, look at Ferguson. Look what happened during that. You know, people forget. Look at all of those horrible race riots you had during Obama. Ferguson is just one that comes to mind, but you had them all the time. Look at all of what happened with Brown and this one and that one. Look at all of the problems you had under Obama. It was a disaster. It was actually worse than anything. This is a much different situation. Again, the anarchists of Portland are different than what's going on in Chicago. Chicago can be solved. I think it's actually a little bit more difficult to solve. I think the anarchists in many ways are much more solvable. But for women, more than anything else, they want security, they want safety. They have to have safety. They talk about the suburban woman. What I did recently, I ended the regulation that provided low-income housing that mandated low-income
That was Obama's
housing.
rule.
That was the Obama rule. It was a disaster.
Do you think the suburbs are in danger if Biden is elected?
yeah,
We already know the
because-
cities are in
okay,
danger, but
so-
are the suburbs in danger? Because they say that's fear mongering on the part of
I know the
Republicans.
suburbs. Look, Westchester was ground zero, okay, for what they were trying to do. They were trying to destroy the suburban, beautiful place, the American dream, really. They want low-income housing, and with that comes a lot of other problems, including crime. May not be
You're
nice
not
to
saying
say,
all
but
poor
I'll
people
say
are
it.
criminals, though.
No, I'm not saying that at all, but it does. There is a level of violence that you don't see. So you have this beautiful community in the suburbs, including women, right? Women, they want security. I ended where they build low-income housing project right in the middle of your neighborhood. I ended it. If Biden gets in, he already said it's going to go at a much higher rate than ever before. And you know who's going to be in charge of it? Cory Booker. That's going to be nice, okay? So I think that women are going to want, well, for a lot of other reasons, the stock markets will crash. As sure as you're sitting there, your 401ks will go down to a small percentage of what they are.
Biden says he's not going to raise taxes on anyone
But
making
he's
under
already said-
$400,000
He's
a year.
going to do $4 trillion in tax increases. He's going to do things that are going to cost so much on the Green New Deal, which is done by a child. Okay, that's the mind of a child, because the Green New Deal is ridiculous. It doesn't work. They're going to do things under the Green. You know, the Green New Deal, if you actually did it, is $100 trillion. That's more money than this country could make in
It's going
1,000
to be
years.
good paying jobs. All the great paying
Yeah,
jobs
good-paying
that
jobs.
Obama apparently didn't create.
Let's rip down a building and build a new one with no windows, okay?
The African American community, you've made more strides in outreach to African American voters than I think of any Republican president
Yeah.
in my lifetime. What can you tell the African American community tonight about your commitment to doing more in the second term, and what will that include?
So I've done criminal justice reform. I saved the historically black colleges and universities. What they went through is for years, including
With
Obama.
funding.
Prison reform, criminal justice reform,
Next term.
opportunity zone, more of the same. And in fact, I actually said in the speech, the best is yet to come. And I've been treated very well, at least in the polls. I hope that translates, because unfortunately, the African American, the black community has been so used to going and oppressing a Democrat lever. And what have they got out of it? They've got nothing. Obama didn't give them criminal justice reform. I did. Obama didn't give them opportunity zones. I did. Obama didn't do all of the things, didn't say, Obama could have saved the historically black colleges and universities. He didn't do anything for them. He didn't do anything for them. I've done more, and I said in the speech, some people would say you shouldn't say it, it's too aggressive. I said, what's aggressive? I've done more than any president in the history of our country, except for maybe Abraham Lincoln. The reason I say maybe is I'll explain that to you later, okay?
All right. I want to talk
But
about
wait a minute. I've done more for the black community than any president in the United States, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln. And it's true. Criminal justice reform was such a big deal. And look what Biden did in 1994. What he did to people, to black people.
He called the criminals predators.
Well, he called them predators.
Super predators,
actually.
Yeah.
He called them super
So
predators.
when you see the unrest on the streets, and so much of it is driven by an antipathy toward law enforcement,
Yeah.
and more African Americans are stopped by the police, the statistics that are cited over and over again. What can you say to those families who live on those streets and who are worried? They're worried because they think their sons or even their
Yeah.
daughters could be targeted. Because I've known you for a long time, you don't want that. You want people to all be treated equally, but they have a caricature of Republican voters, and you're the leader of the party. What do you say to them about that
What
mischaracterization?
the black community wants in this country is they want police and they want law and order. They don't want what's happening to their communities. They're being affected in a much harsher, meaner manner than anybody else. That includes Hispanics, who are doing very well also. Look, they want law and order. They want the police. You know, they do polls, and the polls are at 82, 83%. They want the police. They've gotten along with the police, and the police have been very badly mistreated, because you have one bad apple, and it becomes a story for weeks.
St. Louis African American police officer shot in the head
Oh,
and
yeah,
killed
Dorn.
last night. He's now another African American
That's true.
just killed
Yeah,
yesterday.
that's true. Yeah.
Just
That's true. Killed.
it's more dangerous to be a police officer today, do you not think, than it has been in
The
a
police
long time?
are under siege because of things. They can do 10,000 great acts, which is what they do, and one bad apple or a choker. You know, a choker. They choke. Shooting the guy,
they
shooting the
panic.
guy in the back many times. I mean, couldn't you have done something different? Couldn't you have wrestled him? You know, I mean, in the meantime, he might have been going for a weapon, and you know, there's a whole big thing there. But they choke, just like in a golf tournament. They miss a 3-foot.
You're not comparing it to golf because, of course, that's what the media
I'm
says.
saying people choke.
People panic.
Choke.
Yeah.
And people are bad people. You have both. You have some bad people, and they choke. You could be a police officer for 15 years, and all of a sudden you're confronted. You've got a quarter of a second to make a decision. If you don't make the decision and you're wrong, you're dead. People choke under those circumstances, and they make a bad decision. I've seen bad decisions of people that it looked bad, but probably it was a choke. But you also have bad police, but you also, not only the vast majority, thousands and thousands of great acts and one bad one, and you make the evening news for weeks.
I know you reached out to Jacob Blake's mom, and she said on camera she was sorry she missed the call. She respects the office of the presidency, and I think so. She would like to talk to you. Have you tried to talk to her again, and would you talk to her again?
The call is being made, as I understand it. Yes.
Fantastic. In New York, place where you lived, you grew up as a little boy, and now in New York City, we've had a woman in broad daylight. They tried to rape her.
Yeah.
We had another shooting at like 46th in Lex today. New York. What does that do personally, given your life?
Very sad.
What does that do to you personally?
And the prosecutors go after people for political reasons, but if somebody kills somebody, it's like there's nothing wrong with that. The prosecutors in New York are out of control. They're out of control. They go after political people. It's all Cuomo and your state attorney general and your prosecutors.
They're targeting you.
They target me. You know, I won everything in Washington. Now I got targeted in New York.
But a woman being raped and attempted rape in broad daylight.
No,
This is New York City.
That's the people they should go after. They have to get that, and they have to put that person away from
How do you put New York back together again?
You need a young version of Rudy Giuliani. He was a great mayor. He did a great job. I think people are really beginning to. I saw it the other night. He was at the event. People were like, Rudy, we love you, Rudy. They're desperate for a younger version. You could probably put Rudy back now. He's doing great. But you need a young version or a younger version of Rudy Giuliani. You need a tough, smart guy. Rudy was always fair, but tough and smart, and he worked 24 hours a day. And it was all about crime. He had to get the city back. But the city now, it's amazing because I could see it happening. Even, I left New York. I had to leave New York because I'm being targeted. It's horrible what they're doing. I won in Washington. And then they say,
Do you think
here.
you could win in New York? Will you campaign
So
or
I'm
try
going to
to
give it a
campaign
very
in New
good
York?
shot. I'm going to give New York a very good shot because the same people that voted against me like me now. And, I won upstate big. I won Long Island, all the outside of the little circle in the middle, which is crazy because I built so many things here. But outside of that circle, and I said it the other day, I said, I can't believe these people are happy. I can't believe they're happy. But you have to understand, a lot of people are leaving because of de Blasio and because of Cuomo. They're fleeing New York.
Well,
and they're
speaking
fleeing
out
New
of
York
ground
City.
zero for COVID there, and you seem to have a good working relationship with Andrew Cuomo during the COVID, at the height of the COVID pandemic.
I gave him more than he asked for, and all they are is nasty.
But now he's coming after you, saying it's your mismanagement that's gotten us into this mess. And
Well,
so,
the good news, he hasn't gotten very far with that because people understand. He killed 11,000 people with bad decisions on nursing homes. He's the number one state in the country by far for death. I mean, probably in the whole world for death. You take New York out of the equation, I think we have among the best numbers anyway, but you take New York, we have the best numbers in the world countrywide. No, Andrew said I did an incredible job. Andrew said everything that he asked for. As an example, they wanted the ship, I got him the ship. They wanted the Javits Center, I got him the Javits Center. They didn't even use it. They should have taken those senior citizens, put them in Javits Center, put them in the ship. They could have done so much. But he was desperate for Javits Center. They wanted 4 regional hospitals. We got him that, these beautiful temporary, the Army Corps of Engineers did an incredible job, so did FEMA. We got him everything. And then the same thing with de Blasio. I never spoke to de Blasio before. And then I spoke to him 10 times. He'd call, could we have this? Yes. Could we have that? Yes. Could we have doctors? He wanted me to send doctors and nurses to a hospital that was having a lot. I got it. I did so much. And then what happens? He does a Black Lives Matter sign in front of Trump Tower.
Does that bother you, that sign?
No, I think it was so. People are vandalizing it. People are so angry. It's built such anger. You know what's happening. People are going by, they're throwing paint on it. They're vandalizing because it was meant as a bad thing. What we've done for de Blasio is incredible. What we've done for Cuomo, but it doesn't matter. New York is in serious
Do you
trouble.
think they're really worried about COVID, given the fact that we had tens of thousands of protesters in Washington on Friday? Lots of Black Lives Matter protesters. A lot of them had masks, but they obviously weren't socially distancing. They were all they were all packed in together, and there's no concern. But then they called the RNC a super spreader.
Yeah, right.
So are
this year's worst
is the
spread,
left
right?
really freaking out about COVID, or is this more of a political concern going into the election?
I think they're worried about the election because Law and order has increased my poll numbers a lot. We've done a great job in COVID, but we don't get the credit. You know, we work through the governors. The governors have gotten everything they wanted. Every ventilator, we didn't have ventilators. We had empty cupboards when I got there. As I say, the cupboards were bare. I think they're going crazy over the election. I think they're seeing what's happening. I mean, Joe Biden now today goes to Pittsburgh, right? So he goes to Pittsburgh. He wasn't scheduled to leave ever. Then he said he's going to leave 3-4 days ago because his polls are going like this, right? Then
Will he debate you? Well, do you think he's going to debate you?
I know he'd like not to. I mean, I know that because I have people representing us.
He might do all right in the debate. I mean, I
He
think
might do
people are trying to say he's not going to do well or he
might
can't.
do-
I don't know. I mean, he's been in public life for 40 years.
What
Mr.
is
President.
strange, I watched the various debates when he was running against all these people, and they were killing him. He was so bad. But against Bernie, he was, you know, he
But
was.
you'll be debating the media. Will you not be debating the media? Why not have no moderators? Why not just you and Biden?
I would rather have that. First of all, the media, you know, is unbelievable. But what I'd like is that would be the ultimate debate. Two guys standing on a stage and you just debate it out. So I know he'd like not to do the debates. I think he probably has to. I don't know how you get out of the debates. I think you probably have to.
On the flu vaccines in Massachusetts, they're mandating that children get flu vaccines in order to go back to school. There's a controversy about that. A lot of parents are like, whoa, we don't want our kids to get the flu vaccines. Are you worried that on the push for vaccines, these fast vaccines for COVID, you might be splitting a coalition of Americans, frankly, in both parties, who aren't comfortable with
once
these
you
vaccines?
get to a certain number, you know, we use the word herd, right? Once you get to a certain number, it's going to go away. So, you know, it doesn't have to be. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people are not going to want to do it. A lot of people don't want to do the flu.
Should it be
vaccine.
mandatory?
You know, I never had the flu, but I never had a shot. I never had the vaccine. I come here, the first thing, sir, you have to have a flu shot. I said, why? Because you have to have it. I say, what's the percentage? And I wasn't thrilled with the percentage. You know, it's like 50%, 55%.
Oh, but Dr. Fauci said it might not give, quote, great protection because it's a coronavirus.
Well, I said, look, if I've never had it, wouldn't it be good? And then I thought I should have it because I'll set an example. So I had it. So I've had it now 3 times. And I still haven't had the flu. So maybe I'll give credit to the flu vaccine. I don't know. I can say this, I think we're going to have a vaccine very soon. A lot of tremendous work has been done. You're going to have a vaccine just like we have therapeutics, which to me are even more important. You go into the hospital, you make people better. That's to me the most. And we just did the convalescent plasma, I think, and you have other things too. So I think we're going to have a lot of therapeutics and we're going to have a vaccine very soon. As to whether or not people take it,
Well, 35% say they're not going to take the COVID vaccine. They don't want it. So they shouldn't be mandatory.
but if you add 35 to the people that have had it and to all of the other things, you know, people that have had it where in theory you can't get it, although they found one person and they're making a big deal. One person got it twice. But if you add it all up, it gives you very good protection.
Biden says he would shut down the economy again if the scientists said that was the right thing to do in the fight against COVID.
Yeah.
Would you?
Well, I think it's a very dangerous statement for him to make. Look, we did the right thing. We shut it down and now we built it up and we're setting records on job numbers. We're setting records on retail numbers. So this guy comes in, I heard it the other day, if they said, so that means that if some doctor said we have to shut it down, we're going to shut it down. We're setting records. By the way, the stock market is at an all-time record right now. You look at what's going on in the stock market. Look at what's going on. We're going to have a phenomenal year next year. We're going to have a great third quarter. Interestingly, the numbers for the third quarter will come out before the election.
Are you worried if something happens on the market and it corrects in
what
October,
happens?
you peg it all
If
in the
it does,
market,
it
and they're
does.
like, Trump's pushing the market?
Well, I can tell you what is happening. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to give any stimulus. We should have. It wasn't the people's fault that China gave us this virus. China gave us the virus, whether it was through incompetence or on purpose.
She called you a domestic enemy, an enemy of the state, your supporters. How do you work with her on another stimulus?
Well, I always tell
Will
her
it happen?
I always tell her to go back to San Francisco, take care of your homeless problem, take care of your problem in California, because there's nothing like what I'm witnessing out there. right outside, right where she lives, right in her district, is so bad. Needles all over the
Will
place.
you get a stimulus or not?
Well, we should have. We'd like to get it for the people because it wasn't their fault, but she doesn't want to give it because that will make the economy a little bit better, and that would be a terrible thing.
If you had to do it all again, I know that's kind of a hard question, but do it all again, would you put Fauci front and center every day in charge of the coronavirus task force?
I get along with him very well. I disagree with a lot of what he said. He said keep it open for China. That was a big mistake, and he admits it. I get along with him, but every once in a while he'll come up with one that I say, where did that come from? I inherited him. He was here. He was a part of this huge piece of machinery. I didn't put anybody in charge. He was here. He's been here for 40 years.
1984.
Okay, he's been here for many, many years. You inherit a lot of people. It's part of the machinery. And you have some you love, some you don't. I like them. I don't agree with them that often, but I like them.
And when you look back on the last 4 years, and the first three were impeachment, Mueller, pandemic, investigations.
Yeah.
What do you say to the American people about what they don't see when they're doing interviews like this? How you cope with this constant barrage from the Hill? There's always back and forth. That's fine, but it's been different for you.
It's been different because I've accomplished so much. On the military, I've accomplished, first of all, bringing many of the troops home and most of the troops home, even cutting down Germany, okay, because they've taken advantage of us like you wouldn't believe. But it's been different for a lot of different reasons. I think primarily because I've accomplished so much. I was investigated practically from the time I came down the escalator with our great First Lady. I was under investigation, and it's a disgrace, and it should never be allowed to happen again. And I say this openly. Bill Barr can go down as the greatest attorney general in the history of our country, or he can go down as just another guy. It depends. They have all the stuff. You don't need anything else. They want everything. You don't need anything else. They all lied to Congress. They were liars. They were cheaters. They were treasonous. It was treason.
But Bill Barr, you're saying, has to prosecute all of these individuals to be a great attorney general? I mean, he's one of the most talented attorney generals.
I'll let you know about that, and I really like him a lot, but I'll let you know about that. Right now, if I just read the newspapers, even the bad ones, even the ones that are fake news, there's a case. Look, there was a 78-page report about Comey done by Horowitz. And I have to tell you, Inspector General Horowitz, I have to tell you that report was one of the most brutal reports I've ever seen. Let's see what happens with it. The report on McCabe was one of the most brutal. I actually read them. One of the most brutal reports I've ever seen. Let's see what happens with them. If I get another report, if I were a Democrat, this whole thing would have been so different. People would be in jail now 2 years ago for 50-year terms because this was treason. This was subversion. This was the overthrow of a country. And
have they ever stopped trying to take you out before the election, meaning the protests, the impeachment? It's been a constant drumbeat.
Well, the
from
protests were interesting because they thought the protests would be good for them because it's all Democrat stirred up and led. They thought, and it's in cities, they've lost control of it. They've actually lost control. They thought the protests would be good for them, and it turned out to be very bad.
Melania, you mentioned the First Lady. She got rave reviews for her speech, as so many of the speeches at the RNC. Are we going to be seeing more of her on the campaign trail?
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of women, especially in Middle America, are desperate to still get to know her better.
And they like her, and they love her style, her class, her grace. I thought she gave an incredible speech. And you have to understand, it's not her first language. How many people could come over and make a speech to the world?
Not I.
No, think of it. When you think of it, she did an incredible job.
Will we see her on the campaign trail?
Yeah, she'll be very much involved. She wants to see this be a victory.
Why do you think in the popular culture where you came from, you were massive success with The Apprentice, everybody knows it. Why do you think there's this push for massive ideological conformity in Hollywood, in the entertainment industry, comedians, everyone? Why is that happening? Why are they so unhinged now?
They are unhinged, but a lot of those people are going to vote for me because they don't want to lose their money. Because they know if Biden gets in, the stock market's going to crash, they're going to lose their money. And I saw a recent number on Beverly Hills, the people in Beverly Hills, California, where I had a home, sold it, but I lived for a while, you know, on and off because I was doing a project out there. Beverly Hills, California, that many, many people voted for me. And then I'll see them on television saying bad things. And they say, you know, that person voted for you. A large percentage of people voted for
But they're
me.
afraid to say so.
Yeah, but they don't want to lose their wealth. You know, they're very, they're greedy people. They don't want to lose their wealth. So they'll talk one way, but they're going to vote another way. And I think I saw one poll, 62% of the people said they were lying about the polls. I think that's going to be, I will say this.
The polls were right in 2018. Republicans lost a lot, but you weren't on the ballot.
Well, 2018, I was in the ballot.
Right.
They try and tag me with that. You're going to win the House, and you're going to get rid of Pelosi. You're going to win the House. You're going to win it. We're going to win here. The Senate's going to be tough, but we're going to, I think, come through. But you're going to win the House because people are angry. And 2018, you know, they tried so hard, but I wasn't on the ballot. And they went out and did polls on that too. Many people said, I'm not voting if Trump's not on the ballot. Watch what happens. The level of enthusiasm for this campaign is far greater. Hey, this crazy Michael Moore said it the best. He said, I've never seen anything like it. The level of enthusiasm now.
Do you think you
is
can win the
more-
popular vote?
It's more than 2016.
The popular vote. People say it's important for you to win it, not because you wouldn't be president, but because it sends a message to the country, and that itself calms down. So conservatives or Republicans in blue states that would kind of be like, oh, it doesn't matter if I vote. What do you tell them
I
tonight?
think I could win. I think I did win the popular vote in a true sense. I think there was tremendous cheating in California. There was tremendous cheating in New York and other places. And if you take a look at the Libertarian, you know, they always talk about Jill Stein. Jill Stein took, what, 0.5%? They talk about Jill Stein. Well, I have a Libertarian. I'm somewhat Libertarian. I have to be honest with you. Rand Paul will tell you that. I have a Libertarian candidate on last time that got, what, 4.5% or so. Those are all Republican voters. They're wasting their vote because they have to vote for
But
us.
this time, the popular vote would be a huge message to the country.
If there
you
wasn't a
won.
Libertarian on the ticket, I would win the popular vote. I would have won it last time.
Okay. And finally, Mr.
The
President.
biggest risk we
Yeah.
have, I have to say, is this whole crazy thing where they're sending out 80 million ballots to people that don't even know what a ballot is. They're getting them. They're sending them all over.
Applications for
Who's
voting.
sending them? Where are they sending them? They're sending 80 million ballots to everybody. And there's tremendous cheating going to go on. As sure as you're sitting there. And all you have to do is look at the recent races that happened. It's the single biggest problem that there is, because everybody wants an honest election. I want an honest election.
How do you know in Michigan if you're down by 50,000 votes? Like, if they're down by 50,000 votes, the Democrats the next week, Governor Whitmer said, "Oh, we found 50,000 votes."
It's a
People are
crazy
worried about
thing.
that.
No.
What can you say to
Well,
supporters
it's
today
wrong.
about
It shouldn't. The courts. It's in many courts, and hopefully the courts will stop it. If you take a look at what's going on with that, where they're sending unsolicited, I came up with a new name because they call them universal, they call them live. They're unsolicited. You're sending out 80 million ballots unsolicited. Then you have solicited ballot. That's an absentee ballot. It's the biggest problem. You look at New York, Carolyn Maloney. They gave her a victory. They don't even know where the ballots are. You look at. You take a look at what's happening in New Jersey. You take a look at what's happened in Virginia. You take a look at what's happening all over. These are small little races that are easy. They can't find the ballots. The ballots are a fraud. Now we're sending 80 million ballots out.
Hillary says you're not going to leave office if you lose.
Well,
you're not going to leave office. How do you respond to
I
her?
think Hillary's a sick woman. Honestly, she's deranged. Remember the famous debate where she said, will you, respect the wishes of the voter? I didn't say yes or no. I didn't give her an answer. But it was like, she was saying, you must respect. She didn't. She lost. She wanted to get it again this time, as you know, and she got defeated then too. She wanted it very badly behind the scenes. She worked. She wanted to be vice president behind the scenes. Hillary's a sick person. She should just take it nice and easy, relax, go out, vote. Maybe she should go to the poll instead of sending out an unsolicited ballot. But the biggest problem we have in this country It's going to be this election with the unsolicited ballots. Because even a small little district race, a small little congressional race, Carolyn Maloney, they should do that race over again. They should do that race over again. There's fraud, there's deception. What they've done with the ballots, there's 7 different things are happening. You know, the other thing, who are they sending them to?
Are you going to go and be
Who's
ready with
sending them?
lawyers? You're going to have lawyers all across this country ready to challenge this stuff
We have
because they have a
lawyers.
lot of lawyers.
They do. They have more lawyers than any human being has ever hired. I don't know who's hiring their lawyer, but the Democrats have lawyers, and we do too. We're in Pennsylvania right now. We're in Nevada right now. We're in all different states fighting this. Everybody knows, including the Democrats, they know more than anybody else. Look at what they, and then they harvest. Harvesting is illegal, except in California. They do ballot harvesting.
Why did you ask for a drug test before the debate? What prompted that with you and Joe Biden?
Because I watched Biden in the previous debates, and he was horrible. And I watched him in the Bernie debate, and he was normal. He wasn't Winston Churchill, but he was normal. It was sort of like an even deal. He got by it. And I said, that was a different guy than the guy that was in the debates where Kamala just took him apart. Now, Kamala's terrible. She went down from 15 to, I watched her drop like a rock, right? So that's automatically, that's like a poll, okay? She never even got to Iowa. She never even, because she was so low. So that's the person, but she was really mean to him. She said the worst things.
But on Biden, why the drug test? What do you think he's on?
I'll tell you, well, he's on some kind of an enhancement, in my opinion. And I say we should both. I should take a drug test, so should he. Because we don't want to have a situation where a guy is taking some kind of a...
It's like athletes, like a...
No, he should take... I want to take one. I'll take one. He'll take one. We should both take a drug test.
Now Joe Biden has just put out a commercial trying to turn the tables on you on the question of football. Let's watch it.
Good weather by opening day standard. We're going to be in the 60s. Enjoy the game. And now, to honor America, please join in the singing of our national anthem.
Why is football so important, especially for the Big Ten? All these moms, players want them to play, and then they're not able to play. Are they safer playing than not?
It shows you the lie of the Democrats. I'm the one that says play football. I said they're young, strong people. They're not going to have a problem with COVID or the China virus or whatever you want to call it. I'm the one, and they didn't like my narrative, so they just made up a narrative. Because if you look, Michigan is closed. All of these states that are closed, North Carolina is closed. These states that are closed are run by Democrats. And the reason they're closed is because we have an election on November 3rd. And they don't want the opening of the states, and they don't want the income. They want to keep it nice and closed. But you take a look at what the states that are closed, it's terrible what they've done. And those people, and you know, you discuss it a lot, so do I. There's a lot of death, depression, drug addiction. On the other side, when you keep it closed, I think you're losing more people than, it's terrible what you're doing to people than when you open it. So I'm the football guy. I'm the one that wants to have football. I put it out all the time. I'm very upset with Big Ten. Big Ten, they should have opened it. But I'm the one that wants the football. Everybody knows it. They saw that, and they said Trump didn't. These people are just, you know,
They have
lie.
players suing now to play, and their
Good.
parents are
Good.
really upset. Michigan
Good.
State, Penn State, Minnesota,
Well, look at
Ohio
Pennsylvania.
State.
Look
They
at-
could have been the national champions this year, Ohio State.
Absolutely, and there are a number of them in that category. But look at Pennsylvania. You have a Democrat governor. You have a Democrat in North Carolina. You have a Democrat in Michigan. They're all Democrats. Those are the states. And I do believe the governors are telling those colleges, we don't want it.
Yeah, that's
We're
an
not gonna
important
have it."
point for Americans to understand. You think that the governors
Sure.
are putting their foot down, saying, the SEC,
Oh.
they're going to try to play. You know, ACC is playing, but no way.
Look, the
and you think
governor of
it's political,
Pennsylvania-
Mr. President? Is this political?
The governor of Pennsylvania, the governor of Michigan, the governor of North Carolina, they control those teams directly or indirectly because they have to, you know, so much money, so much aid, so many other things, including traffic signs and everything else that they have to give. Those governors control those schools. That's all done by Democrats. But just to show you how they lie and how they cheat, and the biggest problem you have, I want football back. By the way, are you watching? I love football. Okay, Joe Biden doesn't even know football. Joe Biden, look, Joe doesn't know he's alive, but let's see how it all turns out. Okay, let's see how it all turns out. It's a very sad thing. I will say this: we have tremendous potential. We closed it up. We're opening it up. We're doing record numbers. As you saw, over 9 million people employed now over the last 3 months. It's a record in the history of our country. We have a chance of having one of the best years we've ever had next year, unless somebody comes in and wants to raise your taxes, put back on regulations. You know, I'm not sure. I gave the biggest tax decrease in the history of our country, and we're going down lower. But I'm not sure. I think that the regulation cuts that I did, which were the biggest in the history of our country, might have been even more important than the tax cuts.
You said that Joe Biden is China's candidate to win. They want him badly. But you said, well, at your RNC speech, you said, well, I know that, but I'm not going to tell you why, without compromising national security. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, number one, you look at his son walking away with $1.5 billion. Joe he doesn't even criticize China. I've never heard him even criticize China. He was the one that said, oh, China's wonderful, China's this, China's that, China's not the enemy, they're not the problem. I've taken billions and billions, tens of billions of dollars out of China.
Oh, he's taking the tariffs off, that's for sure.
China, oh, the tariffs are going to come off. We're taking in billions of dollars on tariffs. That would destroy us because it gives them such an unfair competitive advantage. No, we're taking in billions. They don't want me. I get along very well with President Xi, although I must tell you, since the COVID situation, I have not exactly been talking to him too much.
Could you make them pay for that?
They are paying a lot now.
But how could they pay specifically
can I be honest,
for COVID?
what they've done to us in terms of the death of people, and I'm not talking about just us, I'm talking about the world, you can never pay for that. What they've done to this country, what they've done to the world, you can never, just in terms of death. Economically, at some point, maybe you can catch up, but you're talking about a lot of good trade deals. I made an unbelievable trade deal. And frankly, they ordered more corn last week than at any time in the history of this country.
Are they taking advantage of this pandemic with what they've done to Hong Kong, what they're trying to do in the Philippines, maybe choking off some of the South China Sea?
First of
Are they
all,
taking advantage of it?
I think that they're hurt much worse than people think. They're having a very hard time in China. China is going very bad inside, the real numbers.
Their manufacturing, they say, is gotten back to par.
It's not. And they're doing very poorly. China's doing very poorly. And they lost tens of thousands of people. They lost more than any other country. They just don't report it. You know, we report everything. And by the way, I saw a statistic come out the other day talking about only 6% of the people actually died from COVID, which is a very interesting, that they died from
well, they had
reasons.
comorbidities, which you've gotten criticized for because there are comorbidities, as the Italians showed, for every COVID death. I think it was 70-something% had 2 or 3 comorbidities. But the COVID might ultimately have been the key morbidity to hit them, but the bottom line.
But it's an interesting statistic.
Mr. President, you still having fun doing this?
I'm having a good time because we're doing a job like just about nobody else has ever done. And I said it before, I'll say it again, and nobody even challenges me on it. This administration, despite all of the fake Russia, and hoaxes and impeachments, we've done more in this administration than any president in the history of our country. If you look at our military's rebuilt, if you look at choice for the vets, and if you look at accountability for the vets, and I protected the Second Amendment, which, by the way, if they got in, your Second Amendment is gone. Your taxes are tripled. Your Second Amendment is gone. Your religious liberty, forget it. They're keeping the churches closed on purpose. You have churches that still aren't open, but you're allowed to go to a casino. It's a terrible thing that's happening.
But because a lot of people don't know how funny you are, but you're one of the funnier people that I know. But you're also in a very serious time. So
this is a very serious. This isn't time for games. And you know, if people say, "Gee, he's comes across as a little bit rough or a little bit direct," I don't have time not to be. I really don't have much time not to be. We have to get things done, and we're getting them done like no president has ever, despite the obstruction, because they are obstructors. Despite the tremendous obstruction, we're getting them done like nobody's ever done before, and that makes me happy.
Mr. President, it's always great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much, Laura.